Our first session will be a fireside chat with two product powerhouses, led by Product Board's Carolyn Thompson, who's joined by Raman Vatanparast, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Proximy. Raman's passion is to build impactful, user-centric products and scalable solutions that empower organizations to the highest level of performance. Alongside him is David Subar, founder of Interna. Better products faster has always been his mission. David's strategies are becoming the standard for how technology companies scale while continuing to deliver products that impact the lives of their customers.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Carolyn Thompson, and I'm here with David Subar, founder of Interna, and Raman Vatanparast, Chief Product and Technology Officer at Proximy. I lead up the value management practice here at Product Board. My role focuses on helping our customers understand the value they receive from our products and our prospects to understand the expected value. So with my personal connection to ROI and understanding the importance of providing value to the business, I'm excited to be here at the Product Excellence Summit moderating this session, Paying to Profit, the roadmap to higher ROI. I'm looking forward to hearing from both these two amazing product leaders share their personal journeys and their tips and strategies to drive success in product development, maximize ROI, and boost the bottom line. Before we dive into the session, would you each like to give a brief overview of you, your company, and your role? David, let's start with you.
Great. Well, thanks for having me. I'm David Subar. I started my career doing research and development in AI and machine learning at a military-owned think tank. It was interesting. I liked it. But what I found limiting there was we were doing research as opposed to building products. So I started as a developer first at an AI tools firm, then eventually became CTO of companies, chief product officer companies, and learned what it was to build product, to put it out there successfully. And 10 years ago, I started Interna, where we help other companies build product quickly, ship it quickly, get feedback from the market, do it again and again. We worked with companies like the Walt Disney Company, with lynda.com before they got sold to LinkedIn. And that's what we engage in, is how do you make these teams effective? That's me.
Thank you, David. Raman?
Hello, everyone. My name is Raman Vatanparast. I'm currently the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Proximy, where we are building a global cloud-based SaaS platform to digitalize healthcare. Before that, I was a Director of Product Management at Meta, working on privacy-aware infrastructure. And prior to that, I was the Chief Product Officer at Trustpilot, where we were growing the company as a SaaS platform, which went for IPO. Prior to that, I also had experience on companies like Yahoo, HP, and Nokia. Thank you for having me here, Carla.
Thank you for being here. Both very impressive backgrounds. Excited to be able to learn from you. So let's dive in. Operating as a feature factory is a situation that no product organization wants or should be in, but it's common. What are common pitfalls that keep teams in this situation? What are some steps product leaders can take to help their teams operate in a more empowered product management model? Raman, let's start with you.
Such a great question. Whenever I hear these feature factory questions, it's always connected to the strategic prioritization. I'm sure you have been in the situation where it comes a time of the year that you have to do prioritization. And like myself, you end up to have a long list of OKRs, initiatives, or ideas that you have to prioritize and see which one you have to go to. Once actually we had this situation and we tried to set up a clear goal and say, we are going to go through this practice by having two clear rules. The first rule is to really identify which of these are really impacting our business. And second one was that what is the impact in our customers? While we were doing that, our main goal actually was to take all of those tiny, small features or value adds out of it and try to really focus on the main key feature functionality that really drives and impacts the business or brings a great value to our customers. That way, we want to make sure that we are not draining our resources on activities that at the end doesn't drive value.
Yes, definitely important to keep the resources focused and make sure we're not draining the energy from them. David, anything you would add?
Yeah. So I feel very strongly about this subject. There's this idea about creating value for the customers, and that's critical. But first, you have to ask yourself, for whom are you creating value for? Of the possible customers, who are you going to serve? That's the first. What Raman said was absolutely correct, but I think you need to take that first step. But creating customer value by itself, if you're a feature factory and trying to get out of that, that's not enough. You need to make sure those features that you're creating not only create value for your customer, but talking about what Raman said is pushing the company's strategy forward. That's the next thing I think you need to do. But then I think there's a third thing, because just creating value for customers and doing things that create your business forward won't get you out of the feature factory by itself. You need to communicate with your peer organizations what product is doing, what engineering is doing, what those products, how are they having that impact? Just being good at running down the road is not enough if people don't see you. You got to be good at that communication.
Thanks, David. Very insightful. Demands on product team keep growing. And in this year of efficiency, they're continuously challenged to do more with less and to ship the right features as fast as possible. What can product teams do to manage these continued demands, stay focused on business outcomes, and not fall into the feature factory trap? Raman?
I think this is a very, very important. As you mentioned, we are in the year of efficiency. Everybody is looking to how to make sure that we are always focusing on return of investment when it comes to our product development. I think the key is really how we are measuring the success, how we can put the right metrics that actually shapes the way that we are innovating. So the main work here is to having a clear goal. So let me give you an example. We were actually had a similar situation where we were debating a lot about how to invest on the short term, about the short-term goals, the goals that are actually having an impact in the short term, or should we really invest on much more future-oriented goals and targets and objectives? We went through a lot of back and forth. We really try to concentrate and focus on how we are measuring the metrics and how metrics are connecting to our success, and where or which area we are actually truly driving innovation that really scales up the business and allows us to be much more successful. At the end of that exercise, we actually ended up to really focus on more longer term initiatives. And I never forget that moment that we tried to have this focus, because in a year, we managed to expand our product portfolio and then be able to showcase that around 20% of our revenues were actually coming from the product that we started to make a decision a year before to focus on, which was really long-term product. So that was a very big lesson for me about how to really think about all the success metrics and how to genuinely really evaluate those, and sometimes take a big bet and showcase that those are actually could become successful.
Wow, that's very impressive. And I'm sure that the team being able to see that 20% impact to revenue was really empowering for them, and really helped them see the importance of that long-term vision that you were helping them work towards. David, what are your thoughts?
I think this is an opportunity. Cutting is an opportunity. Now, you should always be trying to be efficient. This should not be new to this time period. But when being asked to cut, you can ask yourselves, what is it that we let grow too much? What is it that we want to cut back? It's like pruning a plant. I'm not saying it's fun. I'm just saying it's an opportunity. But I think Raman is also correct, is you can't cut your way to growth. You can cut your way to efficiency. And in times where there's macroeconomic effects that are asking you to spend less, you can get alignment with your CEO and your CFO by spending less. But the real alignment is what Raman talks about, is how are we then going to starting to move ahead? The patient isn't bleeding. How do we start walking? How do we start running? You always have to stay focused on that.
Thank you for that answer. From managing multiple stakeholders to ensuring all product work ties back to company strategy, product management is extremely complex today. What are some best practices or strategies you've incorporated to help your teams manage the complexity of product management? Raman?
I think one of the hardest skills that any product manager have to learn is about how they can really simplify the complexity. And I think that's such a skill that everybody have to try to get as good as possible on it. And that's going to open up the window of starting to have a communication with full transparency. Let me give you another example. I remember I worked with a lot of product teams, but one of the teams, I never forget about them. And something was very unique about. So anytime we were talking about that team on any meeting or anytime we were in a room when they were presenting, there was a sense of satisfaction across all the table and in all the conversation. When I was looking to the work that they are doing, they were not always successful or hitting their goals. But one thing was unique is that in all of their communication, they were really and smoothly connecting what they were doing to the actual goal of the company and to the metrics they are measuring. And another thing that they were really good at was that they were making those meeting rooms to be conversational. They were making sure that everybody is a part of this conversation to make a decision about where the team goes, what are the goals that they're focusing on, and how to measure the progress of the team. So at the end of it, they created a feeling that while the team sometimes was successful, sometimes not, at the end, everybody was happy with everything the way that it was going. Why? Because they were really making sure that everybody is a part of this conversation. And that was making them to be very unique compared to any other team, because they were really simplifying the whole complexity of the dynamic of a stakeholder management.
Wow, that's really impressive. We hear a lot of times about, not wanting too many cooks in the kitchen, but it sounds like in this case, having clear ownership or control of the room allowed them to bring everyone into the fold and communicate clearly and get their insights without it being an overwhelming process that derailed the whole thing. So very interesting. David, anything you would add from a consulting lens?
Yeah, so things are complex. Engineering is complex. Products are also complex. The key for leadership here, for product leadership, is to be able to explain things in 2 sentences, in 2 paragraphs, in 2 pages. Being able to go to the other groups, sales, marketing, whoever, and be able to explain a way where they don't have to do the translation, where you do the translation for them as product. Product teams have responsibility, but not authority. You need to generate the momentum behind your product from engineering, from sales, from marketing, from finance, from all this. You can't get that authority unless you simplify that complexity. Product managers need to be able to understand it from a customer level, from other departments, and explain it, once again, in 2 sentences, in 2 paragraphs, and 2 pages for everything. That's one of the things. When I'm working with product managers, when I'm working with CPOs, I have them explain it to me in all those levels of gradation to make sure they deeply understand it.
Wow, that's very deep. I think it can be hard to synthesize things down to such a small and concise message, but I'm sure it's really powerful when you bring in the other groups that aren't as close to the details of what you're trying to work towards, which is a great segue into the next question I have for you too. Effective communication across the business can really make or break the products team's success. What would you recommend product teams should do to improve the communication across senior executives? Raman, let me start with you.
Absolutely. I think I touched a little bit on the previous question, but it's really empowering bidirectional and data-driven communication is key here. I'm sure all of you have been in a meeting rooms where a team comes and gives a presentation. Nobody asks any question, or everything goes quietly and everything finishes. But at the end of the day, when you check, both parties or stakeholders are not really happy about how everything goes, or they're not certain about if the team is successful or not. I think the key and the skills for each team leader or even overall team is that how to make sure that when there is a conversation happening about the outcomes of a team, how they can have really a genuine conversation between presenters and also audience. And that becomes a very important part. If everything is quiet and just a presentation leaving the room, that's not going to be effective. As soon as we are encouraging and nurturing, creating the right space to have this conversation, usually you are collecting a very good feedback from senior executive, or you're allowing them to actually see the data-driven result that you are showing and really build a fruitful conversation around it.
David, any tips you have on changing that dynamic in the room to really get that exchange of information flowing?
I've got some to pitch in there. So there are retrospective processes, right? So it's one thing to deliver data, but you want to, so like Raman said, you need to engage the room. What does that mean? You need to, as the room together, to go and say, here's stuff that worked. Here's stuff that overperformed. That's interesting. What happened? Here's stuff that underperformed. That's interesting. What happened? And you want to engage the room with being part of the conversation. And then not just what happened, but what are we going to do? There are different retrospective processes. People do retrospectives all over. Frankly, most of the companies I've seen have do them incorrectly, where they don't engage the room. But the output needs to be, what together did we learn? What are we going to together to change? I keep talking about sales and marketing. They're easy folks to pick on, but sales folks know things that product managers don't know because they're closer to customers than markets. Marketing knows things that product doesn't know, right? Because they're maybe more focused out. You need to engage them in the solutions and have them literally, like I take people, if you're in a physical room, stickies, circle stickers, markers, working together to solve the problem. That's the way you get alignment. It's that deep look at, here's stuff that worked, here's stuff we should be proud of, here's stuff we can learn from this, and engaging the room. That also is a step to getting out of the feature factory, because now you're partners, not enemies.
Absolutely. Definitely don't want to start the finger pointing game. As we think about making product organizations to be viewed as irreplaceable, the organizations need to be viewed more as a driver of growth. What are some steps that product leaders can take to get that seat at the strategic table and really drive long-term success for the business? Raman, your thoughts?
Absolutely. I think they have to be really empowering innovation. So as a product team are really bridging between customers' voice and also success metrics, they can create a lasting values. We can look to any organization. There is always a tons of opinion about where the company should go or what kind of products or feature they have to build. But product team are becoming the source of truth or the go-to when it comes to what actually customer voice are. And their skills becomes very valuable because they can connect that to the company's strategy. And also very importantly, they can really try to question about how we can actually execute these and deliver this experience, looking to the number of resources we have or how we are able to actually make it happen. That's going to become the most important one, and that's going to make the product teams be irreplaceable.
Absolutely. Customers are so important. And that's something we truly believe at Product Board, really building on the understanding of those needs and the insights we can glean from our customers. David, how do you think about bringing customer insight into this process?
I think Raman's right about innovation, but I don't think he's right about giving the customers what they want. I think it's about giving the customers what they need, right? You have to sometimes completely rethink the problem and to start with like first steps from first principles about what you're going to build. But if you want to have a seat at the table at product, it's about delivering value, like we talked about in the first question, and broadcasting the value the product delivered to the customer and to the company. It's not enough to help people come and recognize that you did a good job. You need to be able to tell the story. By the way, that's helpful for marketing. Marketing wants to know how to tell the story. That's helpful for sales. They need to know how to tell the story. Your job is to deliver value and tell the story so people know the product delivered value, and you can help the other folks, the other groups, be successful at their job. It's fun to be able to tell the story. If you delivered something that's truly innovative, scream it, sing it, like let everybody know.
I absolutely agree. I think when you don't tell the story too, you allow those other groups to really make their own narrative. And sometimes that's always not aligned to what you were trying to deliver, what you did deliver. So absolutely, it's important, I think, like you were saying, for product to really take ownership in that and help communicate out. I guess in our final few minutes, what's one piece of advice to help product teams drive more business impact? Raman?
Sure. I think we talked a lot about collecting customer voice or connecting to companies' goals. But one thing that really helped me a lot is to sometimes take a step back and look to the end of it and look from the end, envision what is the end result, and then do it backwards of how am I able to execute that. Going back and forth, it helped me to make sure that my the resource allocation or the return of investment of entire execution is in the right place, and I actually be able to really see how am I going to make it happen and what is going to make myself, team, and organization happy. So time to time, take a moment, envision the end result, and work your way backward from there.
Very interesting. Well, David, we're at the end here. What is your thoughts on working backwards or any last pieces of advice?
There's this language that I don't like, which is who is your customer, where that customer is someone internal. Our customer is marketing, our customer is sales, our customer is the CEO. I think you need, like Ram was talking about before, you need to understand the voice of the customer. That customer is someone who pays you, but you do need to understand who your peers are, particularly the CEO or the division head, and where they're trying to take the business. If you want to have business impact, you need to hear both those voices. The voice of the customer and the market. Those are, frankly, nuanced difference, but you need to understand both. And you need to understand the voice of the division head, the CEO, your peers, because you're, as I said at the last question, you're driving together, right? You're a team. And I might be, sorry, I'm going to use a football metaphor, and you'll see very soon, I don't know much about football. I might be the tight end, and you might be the quarterback, and someone else might be the wide receiver. The wide receiver running by him or herself, not very useful. If you want to have impact, you got to be in the huddle. You got to help make the play and together score.
I love that. We are at time. I want to thank you both for your time and insights today. What I heard was communication is so important, and truly understanding those customer needs is going to be critical in helping your team stay focused. I hope that our audiences learned something they can take back and apply to their own teams. Thank you both.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Carla. Great conversation.